The dining room air in the modern Lagos apartment usually smelled of air freshener and sometimes, if Osagie was lucky, fried plantains. But tonight, the air was thick with a smell that was deeply confusing. It was warm, earthy, and yet strangely sweet, like hot candy. Osagie, a tall man who wore his suit with pride to his banking job in the city, sat at the head of the glass table. He was tired to his bones, but his eyes shone with excitement. Tonight was special. His wife, Adesuwa, had promised him a real taste of home, Omoebe, the famous Edo Black Soup. It was a dish that took hours of pounding herbs and slow cooking. It was the dish his grandmother used to make to welcome him home. Adesuwa walked in from the kitchen. She was beautiful, always dressed in the latest fashion she saw on Instagram, with long, braided hair that swung as she walked. Tonight, though, she looked nervous. Her smile was too bright, plastered onto her face like a sticker. She held a large ceramic bowl with both hands. Inside, the soup was dark, almost black, just as it should be. "Here it is, my darling," Adesuwa said, her voice squeaking slightly. "The best black soup in all of Lagos, made just for you." Osagie's stomach growled loudly. "Thank you, my love. You don't know how much I needed this." He picked up his spoon. He dipped it into the thick, dark liquid, scooping up a piece of goat meat. He brought it to his lips, expecting the bitter, savory taste of bitter leaf and scent leaf, balanced by rich palm fruit. He put the spoon in his mouth. Time seemed to stop in the quiet apartment. The hum of the refrigerator grew loud. The distant sound of Lagos traffic faded away. Osagie didn't swallow. His eyes went wide. His brows furrowed together so hard it looked painful. The taste hitting his tongue wasn't earthy herbs. It was an explosion of warm, sickly sugar. It was fizzy, even though it was hot. It tasted like a melted lollipop mixed with pepper. He dropped the spoon into the bowl with a loud clang that made Adesuwa jump. "Osagie. What is it?" she asked, taking a step back, clutching her phone tightly in her hand. Osagie slowly looked up from the bowl, his eyes filled with a mix of horror and deep, deep disappointment. He pointed a shaking finger at the dark liquid. "Adesuwa," he whispered, his voice strained. "Why does my grandmother's sacred soup taste exactly like hot Coca-Cola?" 3 days earlier, the atmosphere in the apartment had been much calmer. It was Saturday morning. Sunlight streamed through the big windows, lighting up the dust motes dancing in the air. Adesuwa was lounging on the plush grey sofa, scrolling through her phone. She was watching a video of a woman baking a perfect cake in 5 minutes using a microwave. Adesuwa loved modern life. She loved fast food delivery apps, robot vacuum cleaners, and anything that promised results without hard work. The idea of sweating over a hot stove made her sigh with exhaustion before she even started. Osagie sat beside her, drinking coffee and looking thoughtful. He missed his village in Edo State. He missed the noise of the community and, most of all, the food that took all day to prepare. "Adesuwa," Osagie said gently, placing a hand on her knee. "You know my big promotion is coming up next week. I am so nervous." Adesuwa didn't look up from her screen. "You'll do great, babe. You always do." "I was thinking," he continued, "to celebrate, or maybe just for good luck, could we have a traditional meal? I've been dreaming of Omoebe. Real black soup. Not the quick stew from the restaurant down the street. The real kind." Adesuwa froze. Her thumb stopped mid-scroll on her phone. Black soup. The nemesis of lazy cooks everywhere. It required buying fresh scent leaves, bitter leaves, and uziza leaves. Then came the washing, the endless pounding in a heavy mortar and pestle until your arms felt like they would fall off, and the slow, careful cooking. "Oh, Osagie," she said, trying to sound enthusiastic. "That sounds like a lot of work. Maybe we can just order pizza from that fancy Italian place." Osagie's face fell. It was a quiet moment of sadness that filled the room. It's not about the food, Adesuwa. It's about the effort. It's about home. It would mean a lot to me. He looked so genuine, so hopeful. Adesuwa felt a small pinch of guilt in her chest. She did love him, even if she loved her comfort zone a little more. Okay, she sighed, forcing a smile. For you, I would do it. Black soup on Wednesday night. Osagie kissed her cheek, beaming. You are the best wife. Wednesday arrived too quickly. Adesuwa had procrastinated all week. She hadn't gone to the big open-air market to get fresh leaves because it was too hot and crowded. Instead, she went to the expensive supermarket near their house, but they only had dried, dusty packets of herbs that smelled like old hay. Back in her modern kitchen, with its shiny countertops and unused pots hanging overhead, she stared at the dried leaves. She realized she didn't even own a mortar and pestle. How am I supposed to make this soup dark? She panicked, talking to herself. It's supposed to be black. She threw the dried leaves into a pot with water and some meat. It turned a sickly greenish-brown color. It looked terrible. It looked nothing like the rich, dark soup Osagie loved. He would know immediately that she had taken a shortcut. Panic clawed at her throat. He would be home in an hour. She couldn't fail him, but she also couldn't magically produce the right ingredients. She paced around the kitchen, opening cupboards desperately. Canned tomatoes. No. Soy sauce. Too salty. Then, her eyes landed on a 2-liter plastic bottle sitting on the counter near the fridge. It was Coca-Cola. Dark, almost black liquid. A crazy, desperate idea formed in Adesuwa's mind. It was the kind of idea born from pure laziness and fear of being caught. It's dark, she whispered. If I add enough pepper and Maggi cubes, maybe the taste will hide behind the spice. He just wants it to look right. With shaking hands, she grabbed the big bottle of Coke. She untwisted the cap, the familiar fizz sound hissing into the quiet kitchen. She felt a massive wave of guilt. This was wrong, this was disrespectful to the tradition, but the fear of Osagie seeing that pale, ugly green soup was stronger. She poured the fizzy, dark soda into the pot. The mixture bubbled up wildly, a strange brown foam rising to the top. The sweet smell of cola filled the air, fighting with the smell of boiling meat. Oh no, she breathed, stirring frantically. It smells like a candy factory. She dumped in heaps of chili pepper, trying to drown out the sugar. She stirred and stirred, sweating now, not from hard work, but from pure anxiety. The soup was dark now, yes, but it was a strange, glossy darkness. Just then, the front door unlocking echoed through the hallway. Adesuwa nearly dropped the stirring spoon into the bubbly mess. She wasn't ready. The soup needed to simmer down. But it wasn't just Osagie's footsteps she heard. There was another set of footsteps, slower, heavier. Come in, Mama, come in, Osagie's cheerful voice rang out. Adesuwa is cooking a special surprise for us. Adesuwa's heart stopped. Mama. Osagie's mother. A woman who had cooked traditional Edo meals every day for 50 years. A woman who could smell a fake ingredient from a mile away. The kitchen door pushed open. Osagie stood there, grinning, with his small, stern-faced mother beside him in her traditional wrapper and head tie. Mama sniffed the air. Her nose wrinkled. Osagie, she said slowly, her eyes narrowing at Adesuwa. Why does your house smell like boiled sugar? Boiled sugar. Adesuwa repeated, her voice shaking just a little. She forced a laugh that sounded more like a cough. Oh, Mama. You know these modern air fresheners. I bought a sweet vanilla scent for the kitchen. That must be what you are smelling. Mama stood in the doorway, her small frame looking stronger than any security guard. She didn't smile. She looked at the bubbling pot, then at the empty counter, and finally at Adesuwa's nervous hands. I have been cooking since before you were born, Mama said quietly. I know the smell of scent leaf, and I know the smell of trouble. But, she paused, adjusting her wrapper, Osagie says you are a good wife. So, I will wait to taste it. Osagie, oblivious to the tension, put his arm around his mother. Come, Mama. Let Adesuwa finish. She needs to concentrate. The black soup requires focus. He guided his mother out of the kitchen. As the door swung shut, Adesuwa slumped against the counter, letting out a breath she had been holding for too long. She was safe, for now. She turned back to the pot. The soup was bubbling angrily. It looked black, yes, but it was too thin. Real black soup is thick. Panic rose in her chest again. She grabbed a small bowl of gari, cassava flakes, and sprinkled it into the pot to thicken the liquid. She stirred hard. Now it was thick, dark, and spicy. Please, she whispered to the pot. Please just taste like soup. She dished the strange concoction into the ceramic bowl. She arranged the pounded yam, which she had actually bought ready-made from a hawker down the street, onto plates. With a deep breath, she carried the tray into the dining room. This brought the story back to the moment where everything fell apart. Osagie sat there, his finger pointing at the bowl, the taste of hot, fizzy sugar still on his tongue. The silence in the room was heavy. The air conditioner hummed, but Adesuwa felt hot sweat running down her back. Mama, who had been watching Osagie with concern, looked from her son's horrified face to Adesuwa's guilty eyes. Coca-Cola? Osagie asked again, his voice cracking. Adesuwa, tell me I am wrong. Tell me this is some special village herb I don't know about. Adesuwa gripped the back of her chair. She wanted to lie again. She wanted to say it was a special sweet root from the north. But under Mama's sharp gaze, the lie died in her throat. I didn't have the motor, Adesuwa stammered, tears pricking her eyes. The market was too hot, Osagie. I couldn't find fresh leaves at the supermarket. I didn't want to disappoint you with green soup. I wanted it to be black. I saw the Coke and I just thought. You thought soda was the same as culture. Mama's voice cut through the room. It wasn't loud, but it was sharp. Mama reached for her own spoon. Mama, don't, Osagie warned, reaching out to stop her. It's awful. I must taste what modern cooking is, Mama said sternly. She dipped her spoon into the thick, dark sludge and put it in her mouth. She didn't spit it out. She didn't gag. She simply closed her eyes and swallowed. Then, she set the spoon down very gently. It is sweet, Mama said, her voice terrifyingly calm. It tastes like you took a child's birthday party and boiled it with goat meat. She looked at Adesuwa. My son works hard. He leaves this house before the sun comes up. He returns when the moon is high. He asked for one thing. One taste of his history. And you gave him a soft drink. I tried to make it look right. Adesuwa cried out, the tears finally spilling over. I wanted it to look perfect for him. That is the problem with your generation, Mama said, shaking her head slowly. You care only about how things look. You care about the picture for the internet. You care about the appearance. But soup, Adesuwa, is like marriage. It does not matter how it looks on the outside. It matters what is inside. If the inside is fake, the whole thing is rotten. Osagie stood up. He looked at the bowl of soup with a deep sadness that hurt Adesuwa more than any anger could. He looked like a little boy who had been promised a toy and was given an empty box. I wasn't asking for the soup because I was hungry, Adesuwa, Osagie said softly. I can buy food anywhere. I asked for it because I wanted to feel like you cared enough to take the time. Pounding the herbs takes time. Washing the leaves takes time. That time is the gift. You tried to cheat the time. I'm sorry, Adesuwa wept, covering her face with her beautifully manicured hands. I was just so tired, and I didn't want to fail. You did not fail because you can't cook, Osagie said, picking up his briefcase from the floor. You failed because you thought I was foolish enough not to know the difference between hard work and a bottle of Coke. Where are you going? Adesuwa asked, panic rising in her voice. I have lost my appetite, Osagie said. I am going to the bedroom to lie down. My stomach is turning. He walked away, leaving the two women alone in the dining room. The smell of the sugary, peppery soup seemed to grow stronger, filling the room with the scent of Adesuwa's mistake. Adesuwa looked at Mama, pleading with her eyes for some kind of support. Mama, please. Tell him I tried. Mama stood up slowly. She was a short woman, but in that moment, she felt 10 feet tall. She walked over to the pot of soup. She picked up the heavy ceramic bowl. In my village, Mama said, we do not waste food. Even bad food. Adesuwa wiped her eyes. What do you mean? Mama walked to the kitchen, dumped the sugary mess into the trash bin with a loud splash, and returned. But we do not eat poison. Tonight, nobody eats. Mama pulled out the chair next to Adesuwa and sat down. The atmosphere changed. It wasn't just about the soup anymore. Mama looked at Adesuwa not with hatred, but with a challenge. You are a beautiful woman, Adesuwa. You speak good English. You dress well. But you are lazy with the things that matter, Mama said bluntly. You think money can buy tradition. You think shortcuts can buy love. I love him, Mama, Adesuwa insisted. Then you will prove it, Mama said. Osagie is unhappy. Not because of the soup, but because he feels you do not see him. You see your phone. You see your comfort. You do not see his hunger for home. Mama reached into her bra and pulled out a small, folded piece of paper and a crisp 1,000 naira note. She slapped them onto the glass table. Tomorrow is Saturday, Mama declared. I am not leaving. You and I are going to the real market. Not the supermarket with the air conditioner. The real market. Mile 12. We will buy fresh leaves. We will buy bushmeat. And you, Mama pointed a careless finger at Adesuwa's long, polished fingernails, you will pound. You will pound until your arms shake and those pretty nails break. Adesuwa looked at the money and the paper. She felt a wave of exhaustion just thinking about the noise, the heat, and the mud of the open market. She wanted to refuse. She wanted to order takeout and hide in her room. And if I don't? Adesuwa whispered. Mama smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. If you don't, then I will cook for my son from now on. I will move in here. I will take over this kitchen. And a wife who has no kitchen, Mama leaned in closer, is just a guest in her own husband's house. Do you want to be a guest, Adesuwa? Adesuwa's breath hitched. Mama moving in. Permanently. That would be the end of her freedom, her privacy, her modern life. No, Adesuwa said quickly. No, Mama. Good, Mama said. She stood up and smoothed her wrapper. Set your alarm. We leave at 5 a.m. Wear comfortable shoes. The mud is deep. Mama turned and walked toward the guest room, humming an old Edo song, leaving Adesuwa alone at the table with the empty plates and the lingering smell of hot coke. Adesuwa looked at her phone lying on the table. A notification popped up, 5 easy dinner hacks for busy wives. She stared at it for a long moment. Then, with a trembling hand, she reached out and turned the phone off. But as she sat there in the quiet house, a new sound drifted from the bedroom hallway. It was the sound of Osagie packing a bag. The zipper of a suitcase. Zip. Adesuwa froze. Was he leaving? Over soup? Or was this about everything else she had taken shortcuts on? She stood up to run to the bedroom, but she stopped when she heard the front door click open, then slammed shut. The house was suddenly terrifyingly empty. Adesuwa ran to the front window, pulling back the heavy curtain just in time to see the red taillights of Osagie's car disappear around the corner of the street. The gatekeeper was closing the big black gate slowly. Osagie was gone. She sank to the floor, her expensive dress pulling around her like a puddle of water. She felt small. For the first time in her marriage, her charm and her shortcuts hadn't worked. The silence in the house was loud. It wasn't a peaceful silence, it was a lonely one. She didn't sleep that night. She lay in the big empty bed, staring at the ceiling fan spinning round and round. Every time she closed her eyes, she smelled the sickly sweet scent of hot Coca-Cola. Beep. 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 The alarm on her phone screamed at 5 a.m. It felt like she had only closed her eyes for a minute. Adesuwa dragged herself out of bed. She washed her face and put on a pair of old jeans and a t-shirt. She looked at her long, perfect fingernails. They were beautiful, painted a soft pink. She had paid a lot of money for them just yesterday. "Are you ready?" Mama's voice came from the hallway. Mama was standing there, dressed in a simple wrapper and a faded shirt, holding two large, empty woven bags. She looked ready for war. "I am ready, Mama," Adesuwa whispered. They took a taxi to Mile 12 Market because Mama said, "Your fancy car cannot handle the mud." She was right. The market was a world Adesuwa usually only saw on the news. It was loud, chaotic, and muddy. People shouted from every direction. "Madam, buy fresh pepper." "Auntie, fine fish here." "Oga, move out of the way." Wheelbarrow pushers ran past them, carrying mountains of tomatoes. The ground was thick with black mud that sucked at Adesuwa's sneakers with every step. Squelch, squelch. The air smelled of raw meat, wet earth, and sweat. Adesuwa wrinkled her nose. "Mama, it's so dirty." "This is where food comes from," Mama said, not slowing down. "It does not come from a plastic packet. It comes from the earth. The earth is dirty, but it gives life." They walked deep into the market. Mama didn't just buy things, she inspected them. She made Adesuwa touch the scent leaves to make sure they weren't rotted. She made Adesuwa smell the smoked fish to ensure it wasn't rotten. "Feel this yam," Mama commanded. Adesuwa reached out. The yam was rough and covered in hair-like roots. It scratched her palm. "It is heavy," Adesuwa said. "Good food is heavy," Mama nodded. "Only empty things are light." By the time they left the market, the sun was high and hot. Adesuwa was sweating. Her hair was frizzy. There was a smear of mud on her cheek. But the bags were full of real, fresh ingredients. Back at home, the real work began. Mama put the heavy wooden mortar and pestle in the middle of the kitchen floor. She pointed to the boiled palm nuts. "Pound," Mama said. Adesuwa lifted the heavy wooden pestle. Thud. It hit the mortar. Thud. Her arms started to burn after 5 minutes. Her shoulders screamed in pain. She wanted to stop. She wanted to open the fridge and pour a cold drink. But she looked at the empty spot where Osagie's car should be. Thud. Thud. "Harder," Mama said from the stove, where she was washing the dried fish. "You are not pounding cotton wool. You are extracting the rich cream from the palm fruit." Adesuwa pounded. Sweat dripped into her eyes. Suddenly, snap. She cried out in pain. One of her long, beautiful artificial nails had caught on the pestle and snapped off. It throbbed. "My nail," she cried, holding her finger. Mama walked over and looked at it. She didn't scold her. She went to the drawer, got a plaster, and wrapped Adesuwa's finger gently. "Vanity is breaking," Mama said softly. "Now the real woman can come out. Keep pounding." Adesuwa looked at her bandaged finger. She looked at the peso. She took a deep breath, picked it up, and kept pounding. Thud. 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 For 3 hours, they cooked. Adesuwa washed the bitter leaves until the water ran clear, scrubbing them between her palms until her hands were green. She ground the crayfish. She watched the pot boil, the smell filling the kitchen. This time, the smell wasn't sweet and fizzy. It was earthy. It was rich. It smelled like the village. It smelled like history. The soup turned a deep, dark green, almost black, not because of soda, but because of the herbs and spices blending perfectly. By 7 p.m., the Omoebe was ready. Adesuwa sat at the dining table. She was a mess. Her shirt was stained with palm oil. Her hair was messy. She had a bandage on her finger. She had never looked less like a Lagos slay queen, but she felt a strange sense of pride. She had made this. The sound of the front gate opening made her jump. Adesuwa's heart hammered against her ribs. She heard the car engine turn off. Then, the front door opened. Osagie walked in. He looked tired. He was wearing the same clothes as the day before, rumpled now. He carried his small bag. He stopped at the entrance of the dining room. He looked at his mother, who was smiling quietly in the corner. Then he looked at Adesuwa. He saw the mud on her shoes by the door. He saw the oil stain on her shirt. He saw the bandage on her finger. And then, he smelled it. He took a deep breath. His eyes widened. It was the smell of his childhood. "Welcome home," Adesuwa said. Her voice was small. I made dinner. Again. Osagie walked to the table slowly, as if he were afraid it was a dream. He sat down. Adesuwa uncovered the ceramic bowl. Steam rose up, carrying the heavy, delicious aroma of ugu, uziza, and scent leaves. He picked up his spoon. His hand trembled slightly. He took a scoop of the thick, dark soup and swallowed. He closed his eyes. Adesuwa held her breath. Was it too salty? Was it too bitter? Osagie opened his eyes. They were wet with tears. "It tastes like home," he whispered. He looked at Adesuwa, really looked at her. He didn't see a messy woman. He saw a wife who had worked. He reached out and took her hand, the one with the bandage. He kissed the soft finger gently. "Thank you," he said. "I know this was not easy. I know you hate the market." "I went to mile 12, Adesuwa blurted out. "And I broke my nail. And I pounded the palm fruit myself." "I can taste it," Osagie smiled, a real, warm smile that reached his eyes. "You can't buy this taste, Adesuwa. This taste is love. It is time. Coca-Cola is sweet, but it is cheap. This is valuable." Mama stood up from her corner. "My work here is done," she announced. "I am going to watch my soap operas in the guest room. You two have a soup to finish." She winked at Adesuwa as she walked past. Adesuwa squeezed Osagie's hand back. She was exhausted. Her body ached. She knew she would be sore tomorrow. But as she watched her husband eat with joy, wiping his plate clean with the pounded yam, she realized something important. Shortcuts might save time, but they steal the feeling. The best things in life, like a good marriage and a good pot of black soup, cannot be rushed. You have to put in the work, you have to sweat a little, and sometimes, you even have to break a nail. "Is there more?" Osagie asked, scraping his bowl. Adesuwa laughed, a genuine, tired, happy laugh. "There is a whole pot full, my husband. Eat as much as you like." Outside, the Lagos night was dark and noisy, but inside the apartment, everything was warm, real, and finally, tasted exactly as it should.